Hi there. In this quick and unplanned video we will be taking a look at this AINOPE Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0. As you can see, the protection on it's a little bit ripped. That's because somebody used it with the protection on while charging the phone, which is quite weird. For the history of this thing and why it looks like this, we are replacing my wife's Volkswagen Lupo with a Ford C-Max and found this inside the glove box, and it's clear somebody used it as is. I ripped this, of course, because why would I keep something like that on a charger that heats up? Because chargers do heat up, they are not 100% efficient, and what's not efficiency is transformed into heat. So it works from, this is the model AV829, works from 12 to 24 volts, so that's nice. It's a quick charge 3.0 spec, as you can see here. Total output maximum 36 watts. So 18 watts per connection if you have two phones that are capable of drawing that, which is quite a lot. And this thing seems to be made out of metal, all of it, and it's freaking heavy. At this point, nothing more to say. Constructions seems on point. I see zero issues. The connections at the ends, which are the power connections, are the thick type, so thicker than the data ones. Or hey, on this side, no, on this side they are thicker. That's interesting. You can clearly see on this side they are wider than the ones in the middle, but in here they are all the same. Or the ones in the middle are actually damaged on this side. No, they are not. They are just thinner. That's weird. So depending on what type of phone you have, it might charge better in one of these connectors. I know that on my Huawei P30 Pro I've seen the connections, because it's able to take 5 amps. I've seen the end connections being thicker, so for me this connector would be better. But they are not marked in any way, I just noticed this by chance. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, for sure I will test both of them. Okay, let's plug this thing in. See how that goes. Let me see. The top one is the big one, so the top one should be giving lots of power for the Huawei P30 Pro. Ooh, nice and secure fit in there. No light whatsoever. It's time to try and open this thing up. What I'm thinking, from what I see here, there's a line right here and a line right here, so either only this comes out by pulling or by screwing, or the rest of it, because this is a single metal part, so this cannot open up. Up to here nothing can be opened up in this side. But hey, let's see. If not, at least we'll get to see what's inside of it. Nothing won, nothing lost. As you could see, I needed more grip. These things are really grippy. I should buy a few more from Dedeman. They are really good. And yes, they are with the Romanian flag on them, so that's quite cool. Just needed more grip, and it seems that this is the opening point. So in theory now we should have access, and hopefully we can figure out what happened and why they are not working anymore. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Continue to wiggle. If we don't see anything that looks, ooh, but something does look blown. Yikes, what happened there? Something's fully not in its place anymore. Let me, I will move the camera. Nothing that I can do about that. That thing right there was not in its place. Think it's some thermal stuff. So much fun. And I cannot really just yank on it. It doesn't work like that. Okay, but somehow it did come out. Okay, I guess. So some thermal pads in there, just trying to get some heat from one side to the other. Yeah. Sad story. I don't see anything really damaged, but I do see this capacitor actually did hit something. Do you see marks on it? Was that cap actually shorting? That is actually a possibility. But it's also a possibility that we did that now. So, but I'm going to move it. As you could see, I moved it quite a lot. Truth be told, nothing seems blown in here. So we have two chips under this. One is on this side and one exactly under the cap. If those are blown, this Gansky, because it's way too small to be able to do anything, and it's also full of that white glue. These chokes right here, I don't think those are blown, much too big. And maybe this little fuse right here, F1. I can check that little guy. Does look a bit weird. So we might have a tiny blown fuse. Maybe this shorted, or maybe that's what but it could have been shorted, and it was also not allowing us to get everything out because it was holding into something in here. So yeah, maybe that capacitor blew everything up by shorting to the case. But I literally don't know yet. I've moved it enough that it cannot do that ever again, I think. Let's insist even more. Yeah, for a fact, now it will not be able to do that. But at the same time, that little guy might be blown. So, yikes, it's so small, I need to zoom on it. Be back in a second. And let's try with the pickaxe. So let's check the little fuse, hold everything in place. Yeah, our little fuse is Gansky. Let's see without it. Yeah, it's working. With the fuse, nope, not working anymore. Okay, problem is that's tiny, but that's not a real problem. What value should it have? And where do I find one? Camera, please focus. So, did a bit of measuring on that little fuse. It's 1.6 millimeters long and 0.8 millimeters wide. That means it's a 0603 SMD fuse. Now, did a bit of calculation for what capacity of fuse we would need. This thing says it can output max 36 watts. As you can see, 12 volts, 1.5 amps times 2. That means 12 volts times 3 amps, 36 watts. But this is not 100% efficient. So I calculated with 90% efficiency, and that means adding to the 36 3.6 more watts. So that roughly translates to about 40 watts that are being pulled at maximum, when this is at maximum with two things plugged in and it's working as hard as it can, 40 watts being pulled from the 12 volt. But the 12 volt can actually be lower than 12. It can go down to almost 10 volts if you have a really discharged battery, although that's not ideal, but it can go that low. That means 10 volts, 40 watts, 4 amps. So in theory, sorry about all the changing of colors, I didn't lock my white balance for the moment, sorry. So that means 4 amp fuse. This little guy was doing 4 amps and this got probably shorted to the case, and as you can see it's a positive right there, so bang went the little fuse, and you can see it is blown right in the middle there. Here is our tiny blown fuse that I just unsoldered. And now I made just, wrong side, made just a solder bridge. I want to give it a test with the PicTech power supply and something connected to the USB after I see that it doesn't draw too much in standby from the PicTech power supply. And yes, that can handle short circuit itself, so no issues whatsoever. If you blow some smoke out of this, the power supply is still safe. Because I found the fuses, I think I can get 5 of them for $6. I know $6 is a bit of money to fix this thing, but getting a new one, it's more than $6. So if that short was the only thing that blew this fuse, well, then it's fixed and it's working. Through the construction of this thing, this is the positive right here, and it was getting the negative right here in these marks, basically to a spring, through a spring, sorry, that spring right there. You can see it maybe like this right there. I'm basically touching it. That's a spring that was giving the negative from this, and basically the whole case is the negative. Allow it to draw 0.05 amps, and camera, are you focusing on something useful? Hit it, and we have power. Kind of a standby 0.04, no, 0.004 amps we are drawing in standby now. So let's plug those lights into it. Hopefully I'm not going to short anything. And they are on. And yes, we lowered the voltage. Let me allow it to draw a bit more. Okay, so above 1 amp. Okay, this is what it's drawing, 0.37 amps. And it's working. So yeah, it was just the fuse. This is a working product. Great. Testing the second port just in case. No, it's also working perfectly. So great, let's buy some fuses. Replacement fuses have arrived. I bought 5 pieces, so they are 4 amp, 32 volt, SMDs 0603 size, and they are quick or fast fuses. So let's see how we could solder one of these in there, because yeah, they are tiny as expected, because what they are replacing is also extremely tiny. So let me get one of them out of this packaging, which is not going to be easy at all. This is less than easy. Way less than easy. Okay, so there's one of them, and it's down. Let me remove initially the spot where I put the solder in there. Okay, looking good. Now just put a tiny fuse in there and solder it, and we should be okay. But let me first lower this to 300. We don't want more than that. Don't squeeze it too much. Let's see how I can hold it in here when I solder it. And we have a 4 amp fast fuse in there, soldered. It was quite cramped in here to solder, but yeah, it's done. I should have used a bit of flux, but too late now. Anyway, again, soldered. Now let's put everything back together and see how everything works. I think that's what we can do at the moment. Let me remember how this goes in. Hopefully I don't get anything wrong. In theory, this goes in like this. And now it's already starting to push in that tongue in there, which will make everything go in much harder. Let me see if I can spread it just a tiny bit with something so it doesn't affect me as bad, sorry. Yeah, and I could. So now it went in just a tiny bit easier. Okay. Our little fuse. So in the future, if I ever need to actually change it, I don't even need to take this apart, as it's fairly accessible from the edge. And yeah, I have a few spares. Let's see, next step, this insulation. It was down in there and it's going to be pushed by this when I tighten it in place. And we're done. Let's plug this into the car and see how it works, and that should be it. And we're inside the car. I'm trying to figure out which of these two is the one with the thick contacts. I think it's the bottom one, which will be top now because I rotated. And yeah, let's see what happens. Do we pop a fuse or it works? I could actually manage to get it in. Hey, we have blue light. It works. No fuse popped. Let's plug in a tiny cable in here and also plug it into the phone and see how everything works and what current we get. So started ampere and it's plugged in. Let's see what measurement we have now. Any moment. And it should be slowly rising. I'm not expecting to see more than 2 amps. Maybe not even that, 1 amp. Also, it depends a lot on what the phone decides to draw from it, because the charger cannot force anything into the phone. The phone decides how much it wants to draw at that particular moment. But yeah, I was expecting to get a bit more than this. Let me plug into the other port. And in this one, okay, 2.4. Woohoo! This is great. Weirdly enough, why are we not getting anything like this into the port that seems to have thicker connections? That's weird. Let me go back into that port. I was expecting that one to give more. Or maybe my phone didn't want to pull that from that one at that particular moment. Who knows? Ah, yeah, it was my phone. So it's really tricky to do this sort of measurement directly with the phone, because depending on what it wants to do, it will not pull what you expect. But yeah, 2.5 amps. More than enough for me, so I'm quite happy with the situation. So we fixed this little guy. Awesome. And what I saw inside, yeah, decent construction. Absolutely nothing to say wrong about it, apart from that bad capacitor that did a boo-boo and touched the case. Luckily, the tiny fuse saved the day and nothing bad happened. And that's about it. This little guy will be replacing this big Huawei charger in my car, and this will be transferred to my wife's car because she has a really weak adapter. But yeah, I really like this little guy, but until I'm quite sure that all is okay with it, I prefer to have it in my car, which cuts the power to that socket when I'm not in the car and when the contact is off. So yeah, better to be safe than sorry, but yeah, I like this little guy. So asking in the comments how it fares over the years. I will do my best to reply. And yeah, as always, see you in the next video. Bye.